Hello and welcome to another episode of Raw Chatter. I have got a really interesting guest with me today. Rachel and I actually met through networking, didn't we, Rachel?
Yes, we
And
did.
we realised we have just got so much in common. Rachel specialises in gut health, among other things. So, Rachel, welcome to Raw Chatter.
Thanks, Vicky. Lovely to be here with you today.
Would you like to share with our listeners just what got you interested in the whole topic of nutrition and gut health?
Yeah, perfect. It started for me about 9 or 10 years ago. My family history is just full of chronic illness, everything from autoimmune conditions, cancer, stroke, heart conditions, everything in between. And when I was growing up, I was actually a child carer before I actually realized it. I didn't know what a child carer was really. I just thought, because my mum was sick when she had really bad rheumatoid arthritis when I was growing up.
Right.
So I did a lot of cooking, cleaning, all of that, looking after my brothers and sisters. And I just assumed that when you got older, you got sick, and that was the way things worked.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and like that, because there were so many people, aunts and uncles who hadn't been well, had strokes and heart attacks and different things going on.
Right.
And about 10 years ago, then I started to accidentally learn about nutrition. And my own diet at the time was shocking. I'm not joking. And I tell this to my clients and they never believe me.
Okay.
I could have done my shopping blindfolded in the dark because I bought the same things every week.
I'm sure a lot of people can actually resonate with that, especially if you are busy and you're working and you just kind of know what you like and it's easy and it's quick. So I'm sure there'll be a lot of people nodding away. So tell us a little bit more about how you kind of found it by accident then.
Yes, so I started watching some documentaries on Netflix, as you do, and I just found it absolutely fascinating and learning stories about people that were just transforming their health. And they were showing these documentaries, I think it was Nick Knowles, the builder fella, and he went to this retreat in Thailand, and his health markers were very bad at the start. And then after 6 or 8 weeks, then he's completely transformed himself. And his whole building team, I think, had gone with them at the time. And they were showing their experience. And myself and my husband thought, you know what, why don't we give something similar a try for about 6 weeks before we go on holiday?
Okay.
And I have never looked back since.
Fantastic. So it really started out as an experiment on yourself.
Absolutely, yeah. I was literally my own guinea pig. And I just noticed one day I felt so energized. Normally, I was coming home from work and I was collapsing in a chair, exhausted, eating the same dinner day in, day out. It was my favorite dinner at the time. And I was just wrecked all the time. And then I just noticed after experimenting with eating different meals and fell in love with Jamie Oliver and his cooking and his cooking shows and everything. And I just noticed, I was like, God, I didn't actually sit down today for 20 minutes and I feel fine.
Right.
And
whereas previously you'd have been dead on your feet.
Oh, I would have been dragging myself through work, and especially after lunch. I did everything in the morning time because that was my better time. And then the afternoons were just toast for me. And then I would just about get myself driven home, put some food in myself, and then sit on the couch and literally not be able to move. I was that tired.
Wow.
And I was putting it down. Like I'd wake up in the morning time and I'd be saying to myself, that's it, I'm going to bed early tonight. I'm knackered. So I just thought I just didn't have my timings right. I was working too hard, too much stress at work. But then when I started changing my nutrition, I was like, wow, there's something else to this. And I went down a rabbit hole. I started learning everything I could, reading nutrition books, watching YouTube programs. And then I learned then the health connection as well. And it started to explain then why I was seeing so much illness in my family.
Yeah, of course. You started to join the dots up looking backwards.
Yes, yeah. And it was really my husband. Like I met my husband when I was 21. And I remember asking him, who's sick in your family? And he's like, no one.
Right. Suddenly you go, oh, that's not the normal then.
That's
Right.
not normal. And he's like, why, who's sick in your family? And I'm like, listing off all these people and then even forgetting some names.
Wow.
And he was like, no. And he's like, no, I have like, aunts and uncles. And at the time they were in their 60s and 70s, nothing wrong with them. Right. And they're now in their 80s and 90s and still in exceptional health.
Yeah, brilliant. So you both kind of went on this 6-week kind of experiment and you've never looked back. So once you started going down that rabbit hole, what was it that made you make the decision to go properly into it?
Well, I felt so much better in myself. And then friends and family were starting to notice a difference about me. And then obviously I changed my eating habits. I wasn't eating the chicken out of a box anymore. And, I wasn't just buying the usual stuff at the shops and the crisps and everything and the packets of biscuits I would have been mulling through. And they started asking me for advice then. And, I chat through some of the things I had learned. And this is obviously a second career for me because I worked in retail for 20 odd years.
Right.
And I got made redundant 2 years ago. And I just knew instantly I wanted to retrain in nutrition. I felt that my knowledge was quite substantial at that stage, but I wanted to have the qualifications to back it up and start working with people professionally. So that's what I did. Then I signed up for 4 courses in the 1 year, forgetting that I was now in my 40s and not 20 like the first time I was in college.
Yeah, a bit of a shock to the system because obviously was it all home studying or did you actually physically have to go?
No, it was all home study. So it was fantastic. I had a great opportunity to do it. And I set up a home office in the spare bedroom. And my days then, instead of going to work, were just days of study, days of assignments, exams and things like that. And I absolutely loved it. But I just found, like my 40-year-old brain was like, wow, we can't cope with this amount of new information coming in. But I just had so many jaw-dropping moments. And my husband would come in from work and I'm like, you won't believe what I've learned today.
Fascinating, isn't it?
Just the power of the body to heal itself and recover. And then all of as I say, I thought I had extensive nutrition knowledge before these courses. And they just opened up my knowledge then so substantially. And I just, like I said to somebody, I'd love to be able to just learn professionally. If all I had to do was learn and study nutrition, I would be in my element. But,
brilliant. I love that. And I can so identify with it because obviously when I first qualified as a fitness instructor, part of your training is nutrition for sport. And then you realize, well, most of your clients aren't sport people, they're normal people. And so then you have to go into sort of another level and then you go into the advanced stuff. But the advanced nutrition is not really that advanced in terms of really understanding how everything connects. And that's where you're quite right. You could spend a lifetime learning more and the beauty of this is we're always finding out new things and we're talking about the gut, but it's the gut brain connection that is the exciting part of it, because as you recognized in your study, everything is connected and you cannot separate them. But once you do get to grips with what you're eating, how you're eating, when you're eating, it affects everything. And this is the bit that I think really got you excited, isn't it?
It is hugely. And also the fact as well, my husband was suffering with digestive issues for 10 years.
Right.
And we were backwards and forwards to GPs, consultants in Ireland and the UK, and just not really getting anywhere with it, just being told it's inflammation and there's nothing showing up here. But yet, we'd go to a wedding and he'd have part of the meal and he wouldn't be well. He'd have to go to bed. Wow. We've been on holidays. We went to Lanzarote for his 40th birthday, and of a 2-week holiday, all but 1 day he was in bed.
Oh no, that's really debilitating. And so together, I'm guessing you did a bit more experimentation with a live guinea pig.
He was my first guinea pig. Yeah. So obviously the digestive system fascinated me anyway. And then having his situation where we were in the middle of that food fear where, like I was experimenting with my food and at the time, and he would have discomfort and pain and feeling of nausea, and he'd be saying to me what was in that meal, and we'd be going through it like a microscope, how many herbs and spices were in there, what different ingredients I'd use, trying to figure out what was causing him the food issues.
Yeah.
And, we tried the whole, very plain eating. We tried small meals, and nothing was really working or not consistently for him. Right. And then I learned about the gut and the microbiome and the impact of that, and also around eating habits.
Correct.
And something then I noticed, and I'd never really noticed this before, but when I'd done that session in my college course, and about how we're eating faster and faster all the time. And
is just one of those things that unless people bring it up, you're not really aware of it, are you? But it's fascinating, because one of the first things that I do with my clients is get them to slow down. And it really does make a massive difference to how full you feel. But as you are going to share with us, just how your digestion actually functions when you slow down.
100%. And that was, I just watched him. And again, I was just like, my God, he eats fast. and I didn't even know. And then I said, I probably eat fast as well. So I said to him, we need to slow down, we're eating. And as I explained to him, digestion starts in the mouth, and particularly for carbohydrates. So if we are chewing fast, we are not breaking down the food properly. We're not giving that first stage of digestion an opportunity to start, because the enzymes are in your saliva. And if we're eating fast, we're not quite chewing the food properly, that's going into your stomach. And as my professor at the time was famous for saying, your stomach doesn't have any teeth. Your stomach, it's hilarious for saying that. And actually, I have some clients now, they still repeat it back to me because I've shared it with them as well. So your stomach has to work so much harder to produce more stomach acid, more enzymes to try and break down that food. And then it's going into your small intestine, and it's getting through into your bloodstream, and that's contributing to the brain fog, that gut-brain connection, affecting that, even your skin, and then your digestion itself as well, because it's just having to work so much harder. And if we're doing that 3-4 times a day, possibly more, the digestive system is just getting constantly overworked. And the difference people can feel, like I often say, that solves about 60% of problems.
Yeah. And this is why it's such an important thing to talk about, because digestion actually starts before the food even hits your mouth, doesn't it?
Yes.
It starts in that cephalic phase where no food is coming. And there's the anticipation, which then sends the signal to make the hydrochloric acid, to start producing the enzymes. And this is why, if you are eating on the run, grabbing as you go, and you're just you're on your computer working whilst you're eating, your nervous system isn't in the right place to actually allow digestion to fully happen. And then you're guaranteed, aren't you, to not chew properly, because you're not even focusing on what you're doing. So that's really high stats that around about 60% of issues can just be solved by slowing down.
Slow it all down like that, respecting it. And I often compare it to the restaurant situation. To know when you're in a nice restaurant and you're watching the food go by, and you're like, oh, I knew I should have ordered that other dish. I never ordered the right thing. And your mouth then starts salivating, doesn't it? You can nearly feel it, that you're that anticipation of the meal coming, and you know that's going to be fabulous and enjoy it. But yet at home, like that, if we even sit down, so many women in particular are stood up at the sink or over the cooker, and they're eating on the go, and then they're trying to get things ready for the children or the family. And then by the time they sit down, guaranteed they'd be the last person. And then they're probably the first person up because somebody's forgotten something, somebody wants something else, and then they're getting on with the next thing. They're clearing the dishes and then they're dashing around. So our digestive system never gets a chance to go into that parasympathetic mode. That, you know, that cephalic digestion never even starts. We don't even get there. We don't get there. And that's what I see. And when people come to me with bloating and all sorts of digestive issues, I can nearly tell them, you're a fast eater, aren't you? And they're like, yeah, how did you know?
Yeah, right. But this is something that is, once you know, you know. And it's not that hard, is it, Rachel, to get a grip on just slowing it down? It takes a bit of practice.
Yes.
And there are tools that you will no doubt teach your clients to help them to slow down.
Yes.
But it's not that long before you realize that it's so beneficial, and it doesn't cost anything, does it? You don't have to buy anything.
Absolutely, is absolutely free, and that's the great thing about it as well. But what I say to people, I don't, you know, obviously the mantra would be to count 20 times when you're chewing. But I say don't focus on that. Just chew as much as you can at the start.
Yeah.
Because,
absolutely.
You know, it does give your jaw a bit of a workout. And, you know, I often say to, especially my male clients, like, you look like George Clooney now in a few weeks with a nice chiseled jaw from the exercise you'll get from actually chewing your food.
Love that. And also really interesting that when we look now at mouths in the shape of jaws and also kids' teeth, there's a lot of people with crossed over teeth because our food, especially the processed food, does not require much chewing at all. And so if kids are not working these jaw muscles and the teeth are not doing what they're meant to do, then the mouth actually gets smaller, and therefore there's not enough space for the teeth. And, you know, this is why I'm a great fan of giving kids stuff that they have to really chew on and get those jaws working. And again, it goes back to, doesn't it, sitting down with the family, slowing down and recognizing that you are not just giving your body food because you're hungry, but you're nourishing yourself. And then when you've got your digestion working better, tell people then what they can expect to happen.
Oh, it completely transforms people, because the first thing you'll notice is the bloating will go away. So that flat stomach in the morning time, and it stays there as well. Now, unless you've obviously overeaten, but it should stay nice and flat and slim. And then your energy then as well, that just completely, so like that experience that I had where, you know, you're not feeling that you're dragging, and it's very subtle at the start. And because we're just so used to being busy and, you know, not quite getting enough sleep and things like that as well. But then when that energy does come through, then it's just transformative for people, that they can feel like they get more out of their life. Like I've had people say that to me, like my quality of life has improved because their symptoms have gone away. They don't have that food fear when they go out for a meal or they go to a wedding or they go on holiday. That doesn't happen anymore. And then they're able to concentrate on more quality time with their family, with their children, for themselves as well. You know, that you have that energy to go and concentrate on your own hobbies, your own activities, things that are on your own to-do list, and get them done as well. And then for hormone balancing as well, it's fantastic for that, because when our gut is imbalanced for whatever reason, it can knock on effect then to our hormones. So that can help you feel better in yourself firstly, and then any menopause symptoms, perimenopause symptoms are often reduced then as well as a consequence. So, you know, the insomnia reduces down, the hot flush is reduced down, and the brain fog as well that we can experience. Like, you know, I had my own situation. I often say this to people when my own symptoms started about 6 or 7 years ago. And I was lucky that I had been working on my nutrition at that stage anyway. And then it was only by making small tweaks then that it stopped my symptoms from, because I started with night sweats. And at the time, I just blamed it on the wrong pajamas, the wrong duvet. I just didn't really kind of understand what was happening. And then I had the brain fog. Like I was literally walking into a room, couldn't remember why I was there. I was sat with a colleague who I'd worked with for 12 years, and somebody came in and he was looking to be introduced. I could not remember his name. And it didn't come back to me until later on that day, like just really, really bad memory. And when I made the tweaks then to my diet, so just sharpened up on like that, some of the processed food that had slipped back in, my own, sitting down and really eating my foods properly and going back to having that balance of variety in my meals, that's lowered down all those symptoms. So, lucky enough, so it'll only happen for me now if I do let my own nutrition slip for whatever reason.
But you can recognize the signs fairly quickly because you're in tune with your body. And I think for a lot of people who are not that in tune with their body, maybe they won't, but the starting point is to just do the basics, isn't it? Slow down and try and eat more of the foods that require you to chew them quite well.
Yes.
And if you just do those two things. But I want to touch on what you said about your other half with his digestive issues. So you got him to slow down, but was that the whole story, or did you discover that there was things going on?
Yeah, so like that, we got into a situation because of his food fear. Then he was eating quite a limited diet at one stage. It was very plain. There wasn't a herb or anything inside of it. And what I was learning then, that his gut diversity in his microbiome was decreasing as a result of that.
Right.
And that is, that can affect your gut lining and the strength then of, you're keeping your stomach acid contained, because he had a lot of acid reflux at the time as well. He was going through Rennies like they were Smarties, like there was a pack of Rennies like nearly in every room of the house at one stage. And if we were going out, he had to have them. It was so bad. So eating more slowly did help with that. But then, as I say, as I was working through my course material, I was like, right now, the next stage is we need to repair your gut lining.
Yeah.
And what we did then is we went to a food intolerance company in Dublin, and he had the test done. And he understood then what foods then were aggravating his digestive tract because of the proteins in it. So there was a couple of things. I think the main one was dairy for him at the time, and then yeast and a couple of other bits and pieces as well. So we understood then to take them out of the diet for 12 weeks and let the gut repair itself. And then we also then worked to heal the gut at the same time. So for him, then it was around introducing different foods very lightly in a very balanced ways, and particularly more around the cooked, because we probably would have been having a few salads, and the raw, cold foods were just not suiting him at the time, and he was in a bit of a flare up. So what we worked on was cooking the vegetables, any beans that we introduced, that they were well cooked for him, that they were easier for his digestion to break down. And then just slowly increasing the fiber again in his diet, getting that back in, and then slowly increasing the variety of the meals that we were having, and introducing like the herbs and spices that are quite healing. And even things like, the soups and that, like the butternut squash, all very healing foods for the digestive system. And that got him then on the road then to be able then to reintroduce some of those foods that he'd taken out of the diet after the food intolerance test. And because this is the big thing, when people have that test, it's not forever. And it can be a bit of a shock when people see that report and they think, oh, I can never have my favorite ice cream again, or my favorite breads or fruits or whatever might be on that list. And it's like, no, what we do is we take it out for 12 weeks and then we reintroduce them and understand where your tolerance levels are.
It's such a well explained view of it, because I think people have heard of an elimination diet, and if you just cut stuff out, and there's so many people who do the cutting stuff out, but then, as you say, they end up on a very restricted diet, which means that actually, without them realizing it, they're making the situation worse. And you've got to heal whilst you're on that elimination diet, and that means doing it not just haphazardly and I read about this supplement and I read about that one and randomly putting them together. You need to work with somebody who knows what the results of your specific test mean, don't you? And then to help you go through that process and notice the symptoms that you're having and because it's very individual, isn't it, Rachel? You've worked with a lot of people and there's no one standardized journey.
No, there isn't. Everybody's on a different path, and everybody's at a different stage with their digestion, their diet, and it's starting from where that person is. So if somebody has quite a poor diet and we need to change that, and I always say to people, and they're always surprised when I show them meal options. They're like, that's food I actually like. And I was like, yeah, of course it is. And like, I'm not going to tell you to eat salmon if you don't like fish. And I'm not going to tell you to eat these things if you're not going to eat them. But what we'll find is we can progress that. Your taste buds will naturally change for you as well. But it is surprising. I've had a number of people come to me that have worked with other practitioners or done other food intolerance tests, and they just haven't been given that guidance.
Right. And this is why I wanted to get you on, because it's so important that you do your own due diligence, because there are a lot of intolerance tests out there, and we're now in an environment where people can just go and order these things for themselves, can't they?
Yes.
Over the internet. But they don't understand what the results are actually telling them, and they certainly then don't know what to do about it. But you have tried a number of different tests, haven't you, Rachel? But you found that there's one particular one that you like. So just explain to people, what does that test involve if they're interested in doing it with you?
Yeah, I work with the York Test Labs, and as I say, that's accredited by very established people in the nutrition industry, like Patrick Holford, and it's for a reason. Now that it's a simple blood finger test. And like anything, it is a bit more expensive than some other tests that are out there, but you get what you pay for, and especially we would do that with supplements, with foods and different things. So when it comes to the testing as well, I have had people saying, well, I can do a cheaper test. And I said, well, that's up to you. But a lot of the cost does go to the labs, and it's for the science that is behind that. The way that blood sample, then when that goes off to the lab, what they do is they put that on 200 different plates that have each of those different food groups on it. And then it's tested to see where the antibodies are for your particular blood sample. And then we get the report. And as I say, I use that then with the clients, and we discuss what it means for that person. And then we also talk about what food swaps they need to make. And I even go to the detail of, if you shop in Tesco, these are the foods I'd recommend. If you shop in Sainsbury's or Waitrose or Morrison's, whatever supermarket it is, so that they know what to go and do. Because when my husband had it done, as I say, I could have done my own test, my food shopping in 20 minutes previously, and then we're having to find these alternative foods. I think my first shop took me 2 hours because I didn't know what I was looking for. I didn't know what to look out for. So it was very time consuming. So that's what I shorten for clients then as well. So we can kind of chat through, how to swap your milks, how to swap your breads, your gravies, your sauces, even if it comes down to the kids' food as well.
And that's so important, I think, Rachel, for the people to just take on board. You're making swaps, but of similar types of foods. You're not asking them to suddenly go and eat like a whole range of foods that they're not familiar with and forget all of their favorites. Because I think a lot of people have an idea that it has to be extreme for it to work. And what you're saying is, no, you're trying to make it as easy and as doable as possible.
Absolutely. And that's essential, and especially at the start, so that you have a direct swap. So you're not missing out on those nutrients, because this is where people make the mistake. Like I had a client last year, he had it done with another provider, and he was doing a lot of exercise. He wasn't gaining any muscle. He had no energy, and he didn't feel well in himself. And when I met him in person, I'm not joking, he was grey. Absolutely grey. And I was like, so tell me what you're eating. And I'm not joking, he was down to about 10 foods. And I asked him, when did you have the food intolerance test done? It was 6 years ago.
Oh my Lord.
He had not eaten those foods. I don't know how he managed it. Do not know how he managed it. For 6 years, he did not eat any of those foods that were on that food intolerance test, because he hadn't been given that guidance.
Wow.
To bring it in that. So we had an absolute battle, because what happens then when you do restrict those foods, particularly for a length of time, like even over 12, 13, 14 weeks, that can cause damage to your gut. So that's why we usually knock it off at the 12-week mark and then look to reintroduce them or the recommended substitutes, because you lose the bacteria in your gut to be able to break down those foods.
Yeah.
They don't.
And this is the bit then that people then, if they do decide they want to try and reintroduce it, they will get symptoms, and that reinforces the idea that, you see, you can't have them. So yeah, it's so important to get the right information, isn't it? And work with somebody who knows what they're talking about.
Absolutely. And that's why people have, even when it comes to weight loss as well, you probably experience it, because people go on a very restrictive diet, they cut it all out, they see the results of the weight for a period of time, and then they try to reintroduce the old foods in the same way, and then they've lost the bacteria that they had for those foods, and they end up putting on even more weight than they were starting. And that's because they have lost that bacteria and they haven't reintroduced the foods in the right way. They haven't got the balance in their diet. And, you know, like I would have been guilty of that. And when I was younger, that yo-yo dieting, you know, between holidays and all of that sort of thing. And it's when you realize that when we look after our gut health, we get that working from us. You never actually need to go on a diet again.
Right. And that's the important thing. I think so many people think it's going to be for life, and I'm never going to be enjoying food in the same way, and I'm always going to be aware of it. And the answer is no. As you said right at the very start, your body is designed to heal itself. We just have to give it the tools, don't we, Rachel, to do that?
Absolutely. Yeah. No, everything is there, and our body is always communicating with us, as you know. You know, it's always sending us those signals. So if we are experiencing bloating or acid reflux, it's for a reason. And as you say, we don't have to go on those excessive elimination restrictive diets. They may be needed for a period, but we make sure we're getting the right nutrients in the meantime, so that we're not harming ourselves, and we're not depleting our energy, we're not impacting our mood and our sleep or our skin, and we're doing it in the right supportive way. And then you have that freedom then to reintroduce those foods and understand how much you can have of them before you run into, like I say, that's where we are with my husband. You know, we're able now to go away on holidays and not have that food fear. He can go for meals out and enjoy the meals. And he knows, you know, he can have a dessert every now and again. Desserts are his kind of tripping point for him, and he knows that, but he kind of finds that he doesn't have the same cravings, because those cravings do go away as well. When you do get your gut in balance, you don't have that dominance of thoughts for sugar and chocolate and to go and buy those foods. And, you know, you're eating in a more nourishing way, so you feel more satisfied after your meals, you have more enjoyment out of them, and then you actually feel better in yourself as well.
Fantastic. So if people are going, oh my goodness, I need Rachel in my life, where do they find you? Where are you hanging out, Rachel?
I'm hanging out everywhere, so you can find me on Facebook, Instagram under Rachel Crowder Nutrition. I'm also on LinkedIn if anybody wants to look me up, and then my website is rachelcrowdernutrition.com as well. So you can send me a message on there as well, and I get back to anybody that wants to have a chat. And as I say, the testing is available in Ireland and the UK as well, and all of my sessions are all via Zoom, and so easily accessible for everybody.
That's fantastic. And we will put all of those links as clickable links. If you are on YouTube, they will be in the description. And if you're listening on Spotify or on Apple, then they will be in the show notes. So I am going to ask you the question that I always ask at the very end of my podcast, Rachel. What is the one thing that you want people listening to this episode to take away with?
My one message would be have a diet of diversity. That's the best thing that you can do for your gut health. And just start off very simply. So if you're having porridge every day for your breakfast, maybe try and have something different at the weekends. And that variety then is the key for great gut health, great energy, and feeling better, and for your overall health as well. And it doesn't have to be big changes. It's just small, sustainable changes that are just going to make you feel better in yourself.
absolutely brilliant. So it's all about that diversity, and it also makes eating more fun and more interesting, doesn't it? So you're
Absolutely.
not having the same old all of the time. Brilliant advice. Folks, if you have enjoyed what you have heard, please give us a thumbs up, give us a like. If you haven't subscribed yet, then please do. And if you think that this episode is going to be really beneficial to somebody that you know or love, or both, then please do send them the link to it, because the more people who understand how to help themselves, but also the importance of going to a specialist in this area and not trying to just kind of cobble it together and think you can do it for yourself. I think that is so, so important. Rachel, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you as a guest. Thank you so, so much. And I'm going to leave you with this, as I always do. We only have one life, as far as we know, and one body. So please look after it, because it is looking after you. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.